Yesterday in class you wrote text-dependent questions with your group. And last night I went through your text-dependent questions, and some of them were really well done, and I wish I had written them myself. There were some that were not as text-dependent, so we're going to look at a few examples today. But before we get into that, I'd like you to first reflect with your partner on these two questions for this do now. Discuss with your partner first, what challenges did you face in writing text-dependent questions yesterday? Secondly, what is the value in writing text-dependent questions? What can you gain from writing text-dependent questions? Why is it important to do so? I'd like you to take just 2 minutes to discuss those two questions with your partner. You can start out.
I think the challenge was really difficult thinking questions that were like important, but they weren't like obvious, and they actually were like fundamental to and for the second one, I thought like the value would be to like make sure you understand the text.
It initiates deeper thinking, like within the text. Like you'll see something that you didn't see before through writing these text-dependent questions. It really opens up it really opens up new doors for understanding the text.
And when you're trying to relate it back to like your claim and stuff, it makes how to word it. Or when you say it. And we just forget it. For number two, what is the value of writing text? It helps you understand the text more. Yeah. And it also makes you become a better writer because it always makes you go back to the text and then find evidence.
Good job.
Thank you.
Okay. So what challenges did you face in writing your text-dependent questions yesterday? Some people struggled. So what were those struggles? Kelly.
Making sure that your text-dependent questions are really text-dependent and that it didn't use background knowledge.
Right, did not use background knowledge. For the most part, your questions did not use background knowledge. There were a few that might have asked opinion, so that would require your own background knowledge. You did pretty well with that, so it's good that you reviewed for that. Akon.
We had to make sure that they weren't repetitive, so that we weren't asking the same question over and over again, just in a different set of words.
Yes, and there were 6 questions you had to write for each source. So that is challenging because there's one main idea, there's one claim from the author. So how do you really expand upon that claim and how he crafts his writing? Martha.
I found that a lot of my questions were more conceptual and there were a lot of my opinion on the author's points rather than trying to analyze what he was actually saying.
Okay. When you were writing the questions yesterday?
Yeah.
So how did you fix those questions?
Well, I fixed them by trying to eliminate anything that's not really in the text. That's more just kind of like my opinion of it. And just trying to focus mainly on parts that can be supported by the text.
Right. Some questions I saw started, in your opinion, what is yada yada yada? What is the purpose of Rousseau's argument? What is Rousseau's argument? So in that case, you're saying, in your opinion, you don't need to say that. Sometimes you just need to eliminate any mention of first person. Varun?
You had to make sure you didn't give away the answer to the question.
Yes, leading questions. Javi?
We had to make it sound formal and sophisticated, but it had to make sense at the same time. So we weren't making it too wordy, so that it actually was understandable to the reader.
Good. Good. Caroline?
You had to make sure it was relevant and important to the claim or the objective.
Yes, we reflected upon our text-dependent questions, see if they were aligned with the claim and the content objective. Right?
Well, I was going to say that I said that the generating the question wasn't as hard, but connecting it back to the content objective and making sure it was relevant to what we were actually learning.
Right. Exactly. So what is the value in text-dependent questions? Why ask text-dependent questions? Why go through the process of writing text-dependent questions? Maybe what you learn from the process. What could be learned by answering these questions? Grayson?
Well, it really opens up new doors for like understanding the text. Like if you write down the text-dependent question, it makes you think a little deeper about what you're really trying to get, like the objective or the claim, like what you're trying to find out about that.
Very good. What else could you learn? Callan?
It helps you become a better writer to always refer back to the text in your answers.
Exactly. Always referring back to the text. One more. Jill?
It helps with the idea of metacognition. Like what Grayson said, it's about thinking about what you're thinking, so that when you look back in the text, you really learn more about it, and you're able to relate the things you already learned or know.
Very good. I like your connection back to metacognition. All right. So today we're going to be responding to some of those text-dependent questions. I went through all your questions, and a lot of them were really awesome questions. So what I did was I identified 2 from each of the sources that you wrote that I thought were excellent. And then I shared it with 2 other people within the classroom. So you will not be seeing your own questions today or answering your own questions. You'll be answering someone else's questions from this class. And you'll see whose they are, so you can give props to them for writing good questions. So I'd like you to take a moment to log into your Google Docs account using the iPads. And some of you just might need to share, or if you have your own technology, you can use that as well. And while you're logging in, I'm going to just show to you a few questions that I thought were pretty strong text-dependent questions, so you can just review what was good about them. Anyone having trouble logging in? Okay. So, today, our objective, we have 2 objectives again. Our objective is you will learn how the Enlightenment can be considered a revolution. In the past, I had you streamline your annotations so that they aligned with the objective. Your annotations were aligned with the objective. I also said to check your annotations to see if they matched the author's claim or provided any insight to the author's claim. Those were your annotations. What you'll do today is streamline your responses to match a concept. So you'll have to respond to the questions, but I also want you to look back at those responses that you provided and connect them to this idea of revolution. So all of your responses should connect to this idea of revolution. Okay? So here's one model question. Which vocabulary word from the text best captures the author's claim? So take a look at your Immanuel Kant article. And I'd like you to take a moment to try and identify with your partner a response to this question. Which vocabulary word from the text best captures the author's claim? Please just identify the word and discuss that with your partner for 1 minute.
What do you think?
Wait, what are we?
Just one vocabulary word that captures the author's claim. I think immaturity, because he talked about it a lot, and like.
Oh, I completely agree.
Yeah, and he talked about it in like different aspects. So like he talked about it in religion or in like education. And how like it was important to be mature to find enlightenment. And he just like connected it to so many different things that I think it was really important.
Yeah.
Which word did you choose?
Immaturity.
Immaturity. What is the author's claim?
Well, What I came up with is enlightenment is achieved through one's obstacles and immaturity, and
Overcoming immaturity, right?
so it's like a really important point.
Okay. So if the author's claim is overcoming one's immaturity, even though he doesn't use this word in the text, I would think from your claim it would be overcome, like to overcome. But immaturity is the problem. What is his argument? To overcome, right? So what word might show that argument? If immaturity is the starting point, what's the end goal? And maybe what word connects to his end goal?
Just maturity.
Maturity, right? So what words did we decide upon for this question? Sarah?
Me and Brandon said maturity.
Immaturity?
Yes.
Okay, why'd you choose immaturity?
He talks about it a lot throughout his passage, and he says to be in enlightenment, we have to become mature. And
Okay.
our immaturity.
So overcoming immaturity. Good. What's another word you chose? Jill?
Individuality.
Why?
Because in the text it says that immaturity is not self-caused, but by lack of determination, courage, use one's intelligence will not be guided by another. And we thought of that as if they're saying you need to be able to do things for yourself by being individual and being able to think individually.
Very good. So individualism you said, right? Okay. Good. What's another word? Enlightenment, right. That is the key word for this unit. So when you look at this question, you've come up with a word, but there's really a few parts to this question. How many parts are there? Amanda?
3.
Why?
Because you have to find the vocabulary word, and then you have to understand what the claim is, and then you have to be able to relate them.
Right, very good. How many pieces of evidence would you need to use for this question in your response? If your response has to be text dependent, how many quotes would you have to depend upon for this answer? Emily?
I think at least 2, because you have to have the word from the text in a sentence and then the claim.
Perfect. You need to show that you know what the claim is, and then the word, and then connect those two. That's the 3-part there. So, what about this question makes it a strong question? Why do you think this is a good text-dependent question? Anika?
Well, like it goes back, it makes the reader go back to what the claim is and then connect it with what the author was trying to convey with his diction or something.
Very good. So you're looking at diction, you're looking at claim, and you're using evidence, right? So there are a few parts to this question. How would you answer this question? What do you need to include in a response to make it a good response? Think back to an acronym that you've practiced. Sarah.
The acronym that we practiced was PERIA. So like all like political and like economical and like social and all those like include the main key points and stuff into your response.
Okay, you could certainly use Persia, which is political, economic, religious, social, intellectual, artistic. You could use that to help you to analyze the quote and think about the impact of the quote. But how should you structure your writing? Callan?
An ACE answer, so you answer, then you cite evidence and elaborate.
Right, answer or introduce your response, right? Answer the question, cite evidence, explain the connection, explain your response, explain why you use that quote. So, today, you're going to craft text-dependent responses using that format, that ACE or ICE, whichever one you have practiced or feel most comfortable using. But within your responses, you also need to connect back to this greater idea of revolution. So keep that in your mind and keep reflecting on your responses so that they connect back to that greater idea. I'd like you to take a look at your Google Drive, and you'll see that I shared a document with you last night. Raise your hand if you do not have a document called Text Edit Responses. All right. So please open that document and take a look at the directions. Caroline, could you read the directions aloud, please?
Within your group, respond to these text-dependent questions thoroughly using evidence from the sources. Choose one from each category.
Very good. So you're choosing one from each category. How many questions are you answering total? Yep. 4. You're answering 4 questions total. With your partner, you need to work on the same question at the same time. You should be talking with your partner about your responses, not just writing together. You should be talking it out before you write. And always think about, how does this show revolution? How does this connect back to this greater theme as well? Okay? So I'd like you to start up, and I'll be coming around and I'll help you if you're having trouble using the document, and see how well you're doing with your responses. What questions do you have? Questions? Okay, you can start out then.
The first sentence actually basically.
Well, enlightenment is man's leaving his self-caused immaturity, and immaturity is the incapacity to use one's intelligence without the guidance of another.
So I think we have to kind of combine that into one sentence for like our first sentence, and then afterwards
Because like
the sentences for our evidence.
Because if we just like say like we have to like explain
If we just say the first sentence, it's not really
yeah, because we have to explain our maturity so like they understand what we're trying to say. So who wants to write it?
What we should do about we need to include this thing in here. So
I didn't mean to take that. It just popped up.
Okay. Maybe we should say
Apple.
Being self-enlightened is different from being taught because it relies on being independent. Does that make sense?
So, you want to just say how? Okay. Well, we should find a quote source. What kind of quote's called? When looking at something as an author
Right. So what should we say next? So now we have to cite evidence. So what would we have to
Evidence.
cite? We have to cite something about being self-enlightened and something about being taught.
Yeah.
So let's just start with whatever we find evidence for first.
IDRK.
Because it's not that they don't necessarily agree. They could still have the intelligence to work
self-caused if it is not caused by lack of intelligence, but by lack of determination and courage to use one's intelligence without being guided by another. I know like you already said that, but
So what is the question you're answering right now?
it's like a real quote sort of thing from
How does the author
Enlightenment also includes people
words and phrases.
They
Help the author generate.
Okay, what evidence are you going to
the
use
outcome of that will be
for this question?
they'll make more contributions to society. So
Apples.
I like that question.
And then we could say, in the text it says that immaturity is the incapacity to use one's intelligence without the guidance of.
I agree. That's good.
Anywhere in the chapter it says a paragraph.
Be like, furthermore, when analyzing we notice the word self-love, which made us think about how enlightenment
Yeah, but the whole idea of persuasion
Say, for example,
in depth. Deeper depth. I like that.
So in quotes.
Wait, and then like right here it says sapere odd. Yeah, it's like have the courage to use your own intelligence is therefore the motto of the Enlightenment. So like we could also like use that too if we need it.
I'm just going to read it aloud so then I can hear it as well as reading.
Though I don't feel
To
like
become mature, to leave immaturity, the person must have freedom to do so.
how about we say
To be self-enlightened, all that is required is freedom in thought and action. This is even inescapable if only the public is given their freedom, according to a German philosopher, Immanuel Kant. A person cannot be held by ideas similar to religion or overbearing guidance. To be free, one must be ready to experience change and to become part of an idea similar to the Enlightenment. Excellent. And where in your response do you connect back to this concept of revolution?
Well, in like the last end we said like to also experience freedom and also to have the ideas that like one has to like be self-enlightened, you have to be part of ideas similar to like the Enlightenment.
Good. I also saw that you used a synonym, more or less, for revolution. Do you know what it was?
after gaining an
It's
understanding.
totally fine that you did that. What was it? Change.
What it is that wants to be achieved. Then explains
Is anyone else finished with their first one?
Yeah, okay, so
mankind
so
and
he
achieving
believes, so I think so like he believes
That even
Let's just go
even after nature has freed them from alien guidance, we gladly say mature or whatever.
I think we should put that after the quote.
That is part of the quote.
Yeah,
That's just a
like, you know
smaller
how,
part
like,
of the quote.
I know, but like you know how we put the quote and then we describe it again after? I think we should put it then, because I think that's more of like the analysis of the quote. I think we should say furthermore we saw that Kant describes how immaturity can still be
Part of, I don't know.
yeah, this was something like that. Furthermore, we saw that Kant describes how immaturity can still be a part. Can still be a part of you even after you develop yourself.
Yeah, even after you mature.
You self-mature.
Or should we say after one?
Yeah, after one.
Self-matured. Can still be a part of your. Oh wait, but then we said a part of you. Be a part of a person, even after one. Yeah.
Be a part of an individual.
Oh yeah.
Can you fix that?
Yep.
Sorry. This is what happens. It just stops working.
Some of them are a little.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just gonna read it.
Why can't I type?
I can't type either.
Or no. Okay, there it goes.
Glitching out. Okay. So the question is,
State of immaturity.
how does being self-enlightened differ from being taught? Okay. You said being self-enlightened differs from being taught because it relies on one's independence. Enlightenment is one getting over his immaturity. In the text, it says that, quote, immaturity is the incapacity to use one's intelligence without the guidance of another, end quote. So, to achieve enlightenment, one has to rely on himself to achieve enlightenment.
Oh, that's not making sense.
You might want to fix that. By being taught, one will not have any need to think.
Even when they are
It's an incomplete statement, so you can fix that too. This means that enlightenment will only be achieved through the loss of independence. This means that enlightenment will only be achieved through...
I think you need the rest of the quote for that to make sense. Because the rest of the quote says, I do not have any need to think. If I can pay, others will take over the tedious job for me.
Right, right.
Does that make more sense?
Yes.
Yes. So with that, with the answer,
Then the only concern is
So to achieve enlightenment, one has to rely only on himself.
yeah, just get
So it sounds a little repetitive. And then by being taught, one will not have any need to oneself. Oh, okay. Maybe say being, you could say being taught by another. So being taught by another, one will not have any need to think.
Then should we include the rest of the quote or just leave it as it is?
You can leave it as it is. Yes. I think I just, when I read it, I thought it was an independent clause, like it was an introduction of something. Okay, thank you.
His claim.
Did you finish your first one? Almost? Okay, just let me know. Has anyone else finished their first question? What do you I'm just going to steal that from you when you're set.
You can read mine.
Read it on your...
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the first one. Yeah, it's the first question.
Okay. It says, how does the concept...
How does the author use the word?
It's just like
It's like glitching on me. Okay. How does the concept of maturation connect to the author's purpose? So you have the concept of maturity, and then the author's purpose. His purpose for writing.
First of
He
all,
said the author's purpose is to present the circumstances for enlightenment. Nice. I like that statement. Kant states, enlightenment is man's leaving his self-caused immaturity. This shows that maturation is a prerequisite for enlightenment, as it can only occur with developed maturation. Excellent. One thing you need to add into that is the concept of revolution or change. Okay. So you can either add that as an extra, as like an ending closure sentence, or you can incorporate it into your opening or analysis statement.
so it's pretty much like. Oh, I missed that.
You had a question? Yes.
We're done with our second one.
Okay.
So which one do you want to answer?
You finished your first one? I'll be there in a moment. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so
You can continue until I get over there.
As displayed.
Just one for each category.
so the private feeling or remember how we were connecting it back to the how the arts were being like deteriorated. Yeah.
Well done. Very specific.
Alright, so
Good quote.
Is this one out of order right now? Or have you been using it?
It doesn't refresh.
Okay, so I'll use this one.
So,
May I see it for a moment? I just want to read it. Okay.
we did number 1, the first one. We're working on number 3.
Okay. According to paragraph 1 was enlightenment. Oh yes, you did the paragraph. Okay. Enlightenment consists of man overcoming his laziness and cowardice to work more individually and not have to rely on others to do their work for them. Okay. The outcome of men becoming more individualized is more ideas being contributed to society. Fix a little fluency in there. Means fix that second sentence. According to source 1, such immaturity is self-caused if it is not caused by a lack of intelligence, but by a lack of determination and courage to use one's intelligence without being guided by another. This concedes, good word, this concedes that enlightenment can be achieved by mankind by overcoming their reliance on others. Also, according to the article, through laziness and cowardice, a large part of mankind, even after nature has freed them from alien guidance, gladly remains immature. So, even after they are directed and assisted by nature to become individualized, they yet remain in their state of self-caused immaturity. Okay. What part of your response do you think connects back to the idea of revolution and change?
The elaboration on the first one, because it talks about how if a man becomes more individual, they'll contribute their ideas to society, so eventually it leads to revolution, just like the Renaissance.
So your idea of revolution is shown by this movement towards individualism, individualization.
Also, because we do talk about individualized and being individualized and assisted to be it, and that's like change and revolution.
Great. What kind of revolution do you think is associated with the Enlightenment?
Idealistic revolution.
Yeah, what does idealistic mean?
Like,
I think it's like an intellectual.
yeah.
Okay, so it's a revolution of intellect, intellectual revolution?
Sharing ideas,
More like physical.
Right.
being self-aware.
So it's not something you can see happen.
It's kind of
Intuitive, it's intellectual. Excellent.
Nice. Also, like, when that happened, it also changed things outside too. Because they were all being more individual and coming up with new ideas.
Right, right. Excellent. Perfect. You can continue on to category 2.
Okay. He uses diction because he uses. He uses. This is gonna take me.
Take us in the article, the argument of
How?
the argument
Of how. I have to see my phone.
oh, it's the
Forcing kids.
wait. My claim was by making learning a necessity, it eliminates the freedom and independence of the student.
We could say.
By incorporating bias to many articles to support the environment,
not to give away your answer too soon.
a mandatory education system to eliminate the freedom of students.
All right.
Alright,
See,
hold
we
on.
got this done in no time yesterday.
Yeah, we
Today.
and now we're like, what? Okay, hold on. How does the author's tone support his argument? So it's saying how. So what does he do to get that tone?
He writes stupid.
He uses biased diction. Yeah, but I mean, it's still biased.
Definitely. Well, how do you expect him not to be biased?
I don't know. Ooh.
When I thus get rid of children's lessons, like he's not even saying I
so
put it to me. He's just like, I'm just getting rid of it.
Yeah, I know.
Reading
To specific.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like for you to pause what you're doing. And this has been done on Google Docs, so it will automatically save. We will continue to work on this on Monday. We'll finish up those questions. I'd like you to just log out of your Google Doc account.
How do you do that? These are the questions.
Also, just take out a piece of lined paper.
What?
Or a closure question that I'll collect.
Nasser, how do you roll out?
It might be in your settings. I can do it on the other. Usually.
No, I think.
Go to settings, go to mail.
Oh no, I can just go to Google and then sign out from there. No, you just go to Google and you can sign out. Like that.
Okay.
That
Close your iPad. You can leave them on your desk, just in the corner.
You'll see mine. I'll even see mine.
Just a piece of paper.
nice.
Here, get me this on paper, please.
Now, you've spent a lot of time looking through mostly Immanuel Kant's What is Enlightenment? And some of you may have gotten onto Ken Robinson's Changing Informational Paradigms. You will be able to look back on Ken Robinson's video on Monday so that you can have a direct quote, because you need to have that evidence in your response. So right now, I'd like you to just respond to this one question. Question is, what kind of revolution was the Enlightenment? What kind of revolution was the Enlightenment? Now this question is an opinion question. You do not need to use the text for this response. If it were a text-dependent question, you could use 1, 2, 3 of the sources. But we don't have the time for that today. I just want your reaction. wrap up your final statements.